All right, so I think we are now live. So thank you so much for joining us on this webinar. My name is Solomon Zuli for Gilitix Media, and we are a digital media company that is based in Mombasa, dedicated to providing inspirational stories and, of course, also to transform lives all over Kenya. We are also here to enlighten the society on issues related to their everyday life, of course, everyday living through whatever we do at Gilitix Media. Today, we are representing COVID-19 survivors. Their stories. We want to hear what stories they have from people who have contracted the virus and managed to survive. We look at their journey through recovery. I know it's been a very hectic process, but we will hear the stories. Of course, we have our guests today. I'll be introducing you to the guests a little bit on later. The webinar presentation is brought to you by Search for Common Ground Kenya, funded by the European Union in Kenya, which is a project called Pamoja Dhidi ya Corona ama COVID-19, a rapid response program that aims at promoting social cohesion and mitigating the spread of false information about the COVID-19 pandemic. Search for Common Ground is a global and profitable organization whose mission is to transform the way the world deals with conflict away from the adversarial approach towards cooperative solutions. Follow the conversation online, of course, on social media through the hashtag. The hashtag is Pamoja Dhidi ya Corona. Okay, or you can use the other hashtag, which is hashtag Baki Salama. Please, you can feel free to comment on our social media, or of course, you can subscribe and share on the social media platforms, or through our Facebook page at Gilitix Media, or at Search for Common Ground on Facebook and Instagram, or YouTube and Twitter. You can use all that at Gilitix Media, at Search for Common Ground. If you have any question during this presentation, kindly pale kwa comment section. You can just drop your comment there on the comment section, and of course we will have this conversation together all through. Now let me just introduce you to my guest today. I'll begin with Honorable Martha Koki. Honorable Martha Koki from County 003, that is Kilifi County. She's the CEO of Waridi Fashions and also a nominated MCA in Kilifi County, and an advocate of the importance of following the containment measures for COVID-19 and fighting stigma against COVID-19 protocols. Martha, you can just wave to us so that we can see you. Okay,
I'm here.
thank you, thank you,
Yeah, thank you.
thank you. All right, thank you so much. Welcome, Martha, Honorable Martha Koki. We also have Alexander Odhiambo. Alexander Odhiambo is a clinical officer, an audiology and public health officer. Odhiambo, Alexander, I see you have an issue with your online platform, but do you have Alexander now? Yes, Alexander, clinical officer. Alexander, you can just wave to us if you can hear us. All right, thank you so much na karibu sana Alexander. Of course, tutakuwa tunasikia kwako a
Thank
little
you.
bit later on. We also have Laura Maro. She's a resident of Tana River County who contracted COVID-19 and survived the experience fighting the virus and going through the stigma of COVID-19. Laura, just wave to us if you can hear us. Laura Maro, yes, there she goes, a resident of Tana River County. So we will just begin this conversation because of time. I see we are a little bit behind schedule. Who do I begin with? I think I'll start with Laura since she's in the farthest end of Tana River County. So, Laura, just to hear your experience, just tell us when did you learn that you had COVID-19 and how was it? How did you realize that, okay, I'm COVID-19 positive? Laura, you can go ahead. You can unmute your mic and then tell us the story. Laura, just unmute your mic so that we can hear you. All right, so go ahead. Just tell us when you discovered that you have COVID-19 and how did you realize that you are COVID-19 positive? Laura, we cannot hear you, so I think we'll just cross over to Honorable Martha, if you can hear me, tafadhali, tell
Yes.
us how you discovered that you have COVID-19 and how was it for you,
Okay.
Mheshimiwa Martha?
What? It started with a cough on 3rd of March. I was from work. I was from Kilifi, and I was just having a cough. I went to Aga Khan and I was tested because I was coughing and I was having joint pains. So I went to the hospital. They tested me. They did not see anything. I didn't have malaria. I didn't have anything. So they just gave me cough syrup and painkillers. So I went home. That was 3rd in the evening, and on the 4th I was going to Nairobi. So on 4th I went to Nairobi, and the cough was still there. I was taking the cough syrup, but the cough was still there. It is dry cough. I was not having any chest pains, but it was a dry cough that was not going. So that was 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th. Now on 8th in the afternoon, my sister-in-law came and visited me in my apartment, and she was actually coming to take me to go and stay at her place. So she found me coughing and she was like, I don't like this cough. What we can do, let's pass by the hospital and get checked. I mean, let us just do the COVID test. And that is how I was tested. And they did a rapid test first. It came out negative. They took sample for the other test that takes 24 hours. I don't know how the doctor will tell us how it is called. And then they did a CT scan. Now the CT scan is what showed my lungs that had been affected. And now this is what the 3rd wave is showing. You might do the swab and test negative, but you might be having COVID. That is how I found out on the 8th of March that I
Okay.
was sick.
So this was in Nairobi or Mombasa? Because I hear
It
you
was
went
in
to
Nairobi.
Nairobi.
I went to Nairobi on 4th. So this happened in Nairobi. So I was admitted in Nairobi. Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right. We'll hear about the medication a little bit later on. But let me just see if we have Laura so that we can bring her on. At least she tells her story. What happened and how did she realize that she had COVID-19? Laura, if you can hear us, we want to hear your story too. How you realize that, okay, I'm now COVID-19 positive. Yes, please go ahead, Laura, if you can hear us. Okay, I think we have a problem with Laura's audio. So, Ellie, kindly, if you can do something about that. So, let me just move on with this conversation and probably bring Honorable Martha again before we go to Daktari. I mean, once you had realized, okay, now I'm positive, I'm COVID-19 positive, Mheshimiwa Martha, what went through your mind at that time after getting the virus? I mean, are there any things you had not imagined before that you did, or people told you about COVID-19? You know, probably now you're COVID-19 and people are telling you, okay, do this, do that. Or, I mean, yes. How was it for you?
You see, things happened so fast that I walked. We went to the hospital. My sister-in-law packed. We are inside, and the nurse checks my temperature and BP and all that, and then she sends me to the doctor, and then the doctor starts saying that the doctor checked my oxygen, and then he starts saying her organs are failing. She needs oxygen. And then I'm like, I have walked to the hospital. Right now I'm being told my organs are failing. So everything happened so fast, but I was so at peace. I was just at peace because I know COVID is there. I knew the third wave was there, and I felt safe because I was already in hospital. So I was ready for whatever that was coming after me being in the hospital. So immediately after they checked my oxygen, I was put on oxygen, and that is how I was admitted for 13 days.
Okay. So how was it for you, Mheshimiwa Martha? Because one of the symptoms is that you have difficulties in breathing. Was it the same case with you?
Maybe I should tell those who are following. Personally, I had three symptoms. My first sim- my
Okay.
first symptom was the joint pains. The pains were too much.
Mm-hmm.
Yani not like for malaria, it was just too much because I had to take painkillers for me to be able to sleep. And then I had the cough. The cough was just dry. I didn't have any chest issues. It was just the dry cough. And then again, I started realizing I am losing appetite. So those are the signs that I had. So when I was admitted, it wasn't easy for the 13 days. It wasn't really easy because I was on oxygen for 9 days. Being in isolation,
Wow.
being in a town where you don't belong, family not being
Mm-hmm.
able to see you, so it was not easy. It was not something very easy.
Just take us through these 9 days. You are in Nairobi, hospitalized there for 9 days. What was going through your mind, for these 9 days? Like, how was it for you? Just take us
So,
through that journey for nine
so
days.
for those 9 days were the worst days of my life, and I can clearly say it was not easy because I could not breathe without the oxygen. And being a human being, you can imagine every morning you'll want to take a shower and not being able to remove the mask and the oxygen to go and have the shower. So I would sit down, have a conversation with God, and tell God, God, I only need 2 minutes. I only need to remove this oxygen for 2 minutes so I can go and take a shower and come back. And I will do that every morning in those 9 days. I would rush. Before I reach the loo, I'm already gasping for air. I am coughing nonstop, and I will just take a minute or two to get back to my bed and have my oxygen on. And it will take like 10 to 15 minutes for me to get back to normalcy and now start breathing well. So that those 9 days were really not easy. And then the hospital, I think it was also overstretched. So even the service, sometimes you want a nurse to attend to you and they'll be busy somewhere, not coming. So I would say for sure it was not easy. It was not easy.
Now,
Yeah.
Mheshimiwa Martha, we still have guys who don't believe that COVID-19 is here with us. What will you want to tell them?
Those who are not believing that COVID-19 is with us, they're jokers. Trust me. Trust me. I know. If not each family has been affected or infected,
Mm.
if not families have been affected or infected, at least you
Mhm.
know a friend or somebody who has been affected. But true, you're talking the truth. The other day, Juicy, I left my house.
Mm.
I did not want to drive. I went to town using an Uber. When coming back, I used another Uber. And this Uber guy said there's no corona. He told me there's no COVID. And I was like,
Ah,
dude, you are going to
you're
die.
not
If you're not
serious.
careful, you are not serious, you are going to die. Because this
Mm.
is a car that you're carrying anybody and everybody.
Mm.
Now, take it
Mhm.
from me. I am a living testimony. I have
Mhm.
suffered COVID. I almost lost my life, and you need to be careful. This guy said, now I believe because I've seen somebody who has suffered COVID. So there are so many people who don't believe, but COVID is
Mhm.
real. And if people are not careful, they are going to die. If people don't have money, they will not be able to be treated. And sometimes you can even have that money and not even get treated because hospitals are overstretched. I have a friend who
Mhm.
suffered in Nairobi and they had to go all the way to Thika to get a hospital bed. So COVID is real. Whoever doesn't believe, kindly
Mhm.
take all the protocols put in place seriously and we shall overcome. It is me and you. It is our personal responsibilities to make sure we fight this pandemic
Mm.
out. No matter what the government is doing, it all comes
Okay.
back down to us. Yeah.
Yes, Mheshimiwa Martha, before I bring in Daktari, probably you could tell us about the treatment that you got for COVID-19, and probably did you fall a victim of misinformation? You remember sometimes back people were waking up very early in the morning at 4 a.m. that amkeni mkunywe chai ya rangi sijui ambayo haina sukari, and of course kumekuwa na wengine wanasema you do the concoctions and
Me,
all
I
that.
did
Did you
not
fall
wake up.
victim of all
Somebody
this?
didn't wake me up.
Okay.
Somebody didn't wake
But
me up. That was very bad. So
just
the
tell us that.
treatment I was
Yes. Yes.
the treatment I was getting is I was getting vitamin C's, a lot of drips. You see, sasa mi si daktari sijui, but I was getting a lot of drips. I was getting a lot of zincs, vitamin C. Nilikuwa kwa drips. My body ilikuwa huku kote ni masindano, some injections that were being done. It was the medication is thorough. The medication is really, it's thorough, starting from 5 a.m. until usiku midnight. Ukimaliza medication hii ni medication hii ni medication hii. So it's not something easy. It's not something I would wish for anybody to go through that. If people can be careful and not get sick, the better.
Yeah, just before I bring in Daktari, Mheshimiwa Martha, did you fall victim of misinformation? Like, if it's a cough, utaambiwa kunywa tu cough syrup, uko sawa, utakuwa sawa, or just take the concoction, or just do this, do that. Did you have any of this misinformation, especially on the treatment part, or
Okay,
necessarily?
personally, I'm one person who doesn't believe in treating myself in the house or anything. Even if I have a headache, I'll still go to the hospital. Let me get the medication from hospital, not anything. The concussions are there. You'll be told to drink this, to drink that. Yes, I was steaming. Hospitals don't steam, but my husband bought me a kettle and I was using eucalyptus to steam even in the hospital. So that, and my friend, my best maid, Caro, brought me some concoction she had made at home before I was put in isolation again. So I was taking those, but personally, I believe in getting proper prescriptions and being seen by a doctor so that they can tell me what to do and what to take.
Okay. Okay. Mheshimiwa Martha, we'll get back to you. Pole for that. A very amazing story. And of course, we are learning a lot. We'll get back to you a little bit later on, Mheshimiwa Martha. Let me just bring in Daktari before I go to Laura. Eli is telling me that the audio is now well. Let me just bring in Daktari. Daktari, you have heard Martha's story. And of course, these are many stories that you hear. You also contracted COVID-19 while in the line of duty. So basically, what this tells us is that you can never be too sure, Daktari. You cannot be putting on the mask. You can be sanitizing, washing hands each and every time. You can be keeping social distance, but you can never be too sure. Daktari, how do we deal with this?
From the two experiences I have had personally with COVID, because I caught it first in June and the second time in September, and this is despite the fact that in our industry, we have done a lot to try and protect ourselves from it. We mask permanently, we wear PPE that is full body, but still, you're still able to catch it from your patient. So you can imagine if I, with all the protection, can still catch it, what then would it be for you who is out there in a matatu with nothing? Especially now that many of us prefer not to wear the mask. I would strongly advise that we should not be too afraid of the disease, but we should be afraid of what it can do to us, and we should respect it for its capability. One, it spreads very fast. It's not like many other diseases we have, like the common flu. It spreads quite fast from one person to the next. It takes very little to contract it from the person seated next to you in a matatu, for example. The key things here is really, first and foremost, is the barrier methods, which is the mask that you wear every day, the sanitization and washing of hands, and use of alcohol-based sanitizers. Those are key. Your etiquette when you cough or sneeze into the inner part of your elbow or into a tissue that you will then discard in a sanitary way. And remember that when you discard your tissue, you also need to clean that hand that touched the tissue. At the same time, social distancing is key. The span that a droplet would fly during a sneeze or a cough is probably just about slightly under 1.5 meters. So if I'm more than a meter and a half away from you when you sneeze, the chances that I will pick droplets from you are very low. Then generally just try and stay out of trouble, because we get into a lot of trouble with a lot of unnecessary movement. For example, you can go to the supermarket once to pick 20 items, but instead we go every day and pick 2 items for 10 days. I mean, that is a higher risk of meeting more people. That is a higher risk of being part of a crowd that you have created. And it generally increases your risk of disease. Then, of course, our diet also is very key. Right from the word go, we should not wait and rush for supplements of vitamin C and zinc because we have this COVID. Take a balanced diet all along. It will go a long way in making sure that by the time you catch COVID, in the event that you do, unfortunately, your body will be in a better place to deal with it. Back to you.
Okay, Daktari, just to bring us to speed, with a treatment, and of course, with whatever has been happening, people telling us that the ICU beds are now full, but probably in the hospitals, of course, and more people um, are now into home based care treatment. So during this time, I mean, I saw on Twitter that someone was told that the use of azithromycin, if I got that right, uh, because you're
Azithromycin.
coughing, you just azithromycin. So you go over the counter, you get a tablet, you take it for 6 7 days, or when you get better. Uh, People are using cough syrups, the concussions and all this. Doc, are these things we can use, for the home-based care treatment, or how do we handle this?
I think the management of COVID-19 will vary from one patient to the next. Because I can tell you in
Yes.
June, for example, I was tested just as a part of a routine schedule of testing because of exposure. And I tested positive for COVID, yet I was asymptomatic. So at that point in time, I really didn't need any medication because I was not sick. I stayed my quarantine period at home. And after the quarantine period, I took my test and it was negative, and I went back to work. There was really nothing special. But enter round two. Round two had me getting tested because I was symptomatic and I had been in contact with someone close who had COVID. And at that point in time, I had a cough, I had a sore throat, I had this severe joint and body aches, and a fever. After the COVID test became positive, the cough got worse. So, as I said, it depends case to case. Every case is managed on a case to case basis. As for the medicines that you talked about, azithromycin is an antibiotic. It has not been proven to have any action directly against COVID-19, but there are benefits in prophylaxis of preventing bacterial infection from coming into play. Because you can imagine if you have COVID-19 pneumonia and you catch a bacterial infection at the same time, then you have two problems. You have two inflammatory processes going on at the same time, which makes you sicker, increases the risk of you getting severe disease, increases the risk of you needing admission. As for the supplements, vitamin C and zinc, a lot of them are being used. They have been shown to have significant benefits in improving your immune response to the presence of viral and bacterial infections. But many times we start taking them a bit too late, but all the same, there's still the benefit of taking them. Then, of course, there are the specific medications that may work against COVID-19, like remdesivir, which is an antiviral agent, which has been shown by science to reduce the viral load a lot quicker and slow the progression of disease by reducing shedding of the virus into your system. Yet again, they are hardly available in our market and they are costly. So prevention, 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 right from day one is the best direction to go in. Of course, when you get severe disease, then other things come into play. Like, for example, there are immune suppressants that we use. We have used them over the years for treatment of other things like arthritis, for example, rheumatoid arthritis. But we find that when you have what is called a cytokine storm, which means your immune reaction to the presence of COVID has become overactive and is then prone to damaging your own body cells, which is what is putting many people in the ICUs. Um, then you need that kind of medication, which is also rare, hard to come by, and the stocks are very low and it's quite expensive. Like right now in Nairobi, you can barely find it in the hospitals. The distributors are out of stock as well. So, yet again, prevention, prevention, prevention. Supportive care for COVID. Of course, it starts with your diet. It starts with you making sure that you don't give it to other people. Another thing that I noticed COVID does is it dehydrates you a lot because you sweat. You really sweat. I remember I could drench my bed 2 or 3 times in a night. At some point, you'd even wake up and think maybe you let loose. But in actual sense, it's just sweat as a result of an overactive metabolism, which is your body trying to respond to something that it doesn't quite understand. Um, Now, that makes you very dehydrated. So you have to ensure you're hydrating sufficiently, taking enough fluids through the day. That is the basis of the myths you have heard about taking tea or whatever. It's just about hydration, really, getting the water that you're losing back. At the same time, your sense of smell, sense of taste are gone. which means you can't smell your food, you can't taste it, you really don't want it. You must find a way to eat it, because if you don't, then your metabolism is running faster than you're replacing. That replenishment is very key in your recovery. The diet must be balanced for this recovery to be useful to you. It must put in the nutrients that you need to rebuild, the nutrients that you need to give you the energy, and the nutrients that you need to hold your immune system going. I hope up to there I've said a thing or
Yes,
two.
yes. Yes, asante sana daktari. Of course, we'll get back to you a little bit later on. Let me just bring in Laura. I hope the audio is now clear. So, Laura, just to tell us your story and how has the journey been for you after being confirmed that you're COVID-19 positive?
Thank you so much, Solomon. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, you're very clear, loud
Can
and clear. Thank you. Karibu.
okay. Asante. I can speak Swahili. Can I speak Swahili?
Please, yes, please go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. I discovered I was COVID-19 positive on October. But then I had gone to visit a friend of mine. Alikuwa na relocate to another place, so I had to go help her out. I had with me my daughter, so tulikuwa pamoja tulivyoenda huko. So immediately when I reached at my friend's place, so I started noticing some signs, coughing, dry cough. I had a lot of dry coughing. It was so painful, by the way. And I had these symptoms like malaria. I had fever. I could not eat. So I thought I had malaria at first, because since I was born, I have never contracted any other disease apart from malaria and maybe cold. So I took malaria medicines, but then I realized that the fever had disappeared, but then I had persistence of coughing. So it was I could cough within after 2 seconds. I'm just coughing. When I sleep at night, when I just make a move or I turn, I just cough. The cough was dry, so it was so painful. So I had to, after like 3 days, I had to go get tested. So I tested COVID-19 positive, but I took it so positively because by that time watu wengi walikuwa wameshaikubali. People were getting COVID, and they were treated and they were getting better. So I took it so positively, and vizuri I was far away from home. I contacted my close family, my parents, they took it positive. So sikukuwa na challenge kubwa sana vile. I had my daughter with me and my friend, so they were so there for me. And my daughter, I'm so glad hakupata, and my friend also hakupata. I was following guidelines from my doctor, alikuwa ananisaidia sana. Madawa alikuwa anatumia ananiletea those pain relief hizo. I was using them, but the way sikuchukulia sana wala na kushtuka sana. So I was just following the guidelines of the doctor. I did home isolation, nilikuwa tu kwa nyumba, sikuwa hospitali, na tulikuwa tunafuata hizo protocols, hizo njia. We shared a house, but tulikuwa tunajaribu sana not to kumingle ile sana. My friend was going to work, I was remaining with my daughter at home. Sometimes unaweza kuwa umechoka, huna appetite, and you cannot even attend to the daughter, but I thank God I was well. I stayed home like in 2 weeks. I went to test again, nikapatikana sina. So sikuona challenge kubwa sana, but COVID is really there. Nikifikiria vile nilikuwa napata hiyo dry cough, mpaka best yangu ananiambia koa polepole majirani wasisikie. So I was like, I was using a lot of water, by the way. Overnight I was drinking a lot of water, kwa sababu nikisikia cough I drink water, alafu inapungua, napumzika kidogo, but coughing was so persistent. But I thank God, through the support of my friend and family, taking the disease, the virus positive, insaidia nikaweza kupambana nayo. Yeah.
Kwa upande wa treatment, labda ulitibiwa wapi na ilikuwaje kwako, Laura?
Pardon? Yeah, pardon, yeah?
Kwa upande wa treatment, labda ulitibiwaje na ilikuwaje kwako?
Sorry?
Kwa upande wa treatment, ulitibiwa wapi na
Uh-huh.
ilikuwaje kwako? Ehe.
At treatment,
Naam.
I went to Coast General for the testing. Then I have my relative who is a doctor. Ndo sana sana alikuwa ananishughulikia nikiwa nyumbani. Mombasa.
Okay.
I
Okay.
was in Mombasa.
Okay. Asante Laura, thank you so much for that short story. I know you decided to make it short. Asante sana. Okay, so my
Yeah.
director Eli is telling me we break kidogo, lakini remember we are just coming back. Follow the conversation through our Facebook page at Giletics Media, na pia vile vile through Facebook page here, search for Common Ground. Just follow the conversation there. Remember, this one has been powered by Search for Common Ground in conjunction with the European Union. So, Ellie, I think we can just go for a short, is it a commercial break? Or we can just break shortly, Ellie, and then we get back so that we can hear from our guests on another issue about COVID-19. So the conversation is ongoing. You can just drop your comment on Facebook or YouTube or Instagram just to follow up on the conversation. Yes, Ellie, we can just go for a short break and then come back. All right, so welcome back to our conversation. Remember, the hashtag is Pamoja Dhidi ya Corona, and of course, we are hearing stories from COVID-19 survivors. All of my guests have contracted COVID-19 and they have survived. So we are just hearing the stories. We have with us on this conversation Honorable Martha Koki from County 003. She's also the CEO of Waridi Fashions. We have Laura Marao, a resident of Tana River County, who also contracted COVID-19. And we also have Dr. Alexander Odhiambo. Dr. Alice has contracted COVID-19 twice. He is a clinical officer. So just to continue with the conversation, and I think all of us are going to be discussing this, probably start with Mheshimiwa Martha. How did your family react after telling them that you are COVID-19 positive? How was it? How was it for your family, friends, relatives, kila mtu?
Okay. The first person to know was definitely my sister-in-law, who I was with when I was getting admitted. Then my husband. So I was admitted. I was admitted on Monday, and my husband came to Nairobi on Tuesday. But you see, when he came, I was already in isolation, so he couldn't see me. My sister, also my elder sister, she's a Waziri, Kilifi County Department of Education. She also came to Nairobi, but she couldn't see me. And then at that moment, I think my family now, meaning my sister-in-law, my husband, and my elder sister, were were shocked. So they didn't even share this news because now personally my phones were off. So they did not share with so many other people, including my own brothers. Didn't even know I was sick until after 5-6 days. So when I was now okay to use my phone, I would start telling my friends, I would start telling a few people that I am sick and admitted, because I could not talk because of the cough, so I could easily communicate using chatting. So my
Okay.
family was positive about it, and they were supportive. They would come. My family would come to the hospital. My husband and my sister-in-law would come to hospital, knowing kabisa they will not see me, but they'll still come. And I will tell them, like, I need something to eat. I need some fruits. They will buy, give askari. Askari will take them to the nursing station. Alafu mi nitaletewa. So they'll do that every day, every day, every day, until the day I was removed from the isolation center. Yeah.
Wow. And any case of stigmatization probably um,
Uh,
from people you interacted with?
when I was discharged, I was admitted on the 8th and I was discharged on 20th. And I came back to Mombasa on 22nd. And ever since that time, I left the house on 1st of April. I stayed in the house for 2 weeks. I left the house because I was going to do some exam. So I would see some eyes like, na umepoa kabisa. Somebody asking you, na umepoa kabisa. What am I doing outside here if kama sijapoa kabisa, really? So
Yes.
personally, I have not, those eyes don't scare me, because I came out
Mhm.
strongly. I came out strongly and shared my story. My story has been viewed with over 12,000 people. So I am going to be a champion. I am going to talk about COVID. You, if you want to stigmatize me, that is your own. My friend, the little people who want to be close to me, the better. You stigmatize me, but I'll share about this pandemic, because that is one thing I told God. God, if you let me survive this, I will make sure I become a champion of this disease and tell people about it. I will tell you for sure, Solomon. People who have viewed
Yes.
my life, I have helped people. Mpaka najiuliza, daktari, mi naona nitaanza kutrain sasa nikuwe daktari. There's so much that I'm doing right now. There is so much that is going on with, I have a WhatsApp group with over 200 COVID survivors and those who are still in hospital. There is a Facebook page that we are opening. My inbox is always full with some questions, and I'm working closely with a doctor and a nutritionist, because I am not one. So I pass those questions to them so that they can help. So there's so much that is going on. So stigma, yes, it is there. Some of those people coming to my inbox and telling me, please do not disclose, but I tested positive, and the stigma. And stigma is bad. Stigma is bad. Whoever is stigmatizing COVID patients or COVID survivors, it is extremely bad. But personally, that one will not get me. Nobody is going to stigmatize me, because I think I had to pass through this so that I can help somebody else, because those I have helped already after my experience are a lot, and I thank God for that.
Okay. Let me just bring in Laura before Daktari has the last about this conversation on stigmatization. Laura, how was it for you in Tana River County? Watu waliposikia ule msichana basi ako na COVID yule. How was it for you?
Okay, to my family did not actually stigmatize me, but some friends didn't believe, even, and they didn't even believe kama hiyo COVID hata iko. So they were like, umepata COVID aje? Mi hata sioni kama hiyo COVID iko. And by that time I was not in Tana River, I was in Mombasa. So mambo na stigmatization, I didn't experience that, because the people who are close to me, the people who knew that I was COVID positive, they were just there for me. I can't complain. But friends and other people who came to hear about it didn't even believe if the COVID is really there. So that is my cycle. People who are with who knew me, who heard about it, didn't even believe even if the COVID-19 is there. Yeah.
Okay, 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 okay. Daktari, just to chip in on this topic of stigmatization, how do we deal with this, Daktari? Of course, at least kina Honorable Martha and Laura and yourself have come out to say yes, we survived COVID-19, but we still have people out there who are wamejifungia, hawataki kusema if we had COVID-19, manake watu watakuchukuliaje wakijua kwamba ulikuwa na COVID-19, daktari?
Um, in my opinion, stigma is a real problem because this is a new phenomenon. It is considered a life-threatening illness, and it is so easy to pass. Two, the measures that are in place to manage people who have COVID-19 also involves separation from society. As a result of the obvious need to separate you from society, that need for separation becomes very difficult to disconnect. It becomes very difficult for you to come out of that isolation and actually convince people that it is now safe for them to be around you. So a lot of people have viewed isolation as being a punishment or a punitive measure for someone who was careless and caught COVID. But the reality of the matter is that you don't need to be careless to catch COVID. At some point in time, probably the entire population of this country will have come into contact with COVID at some point. So it is important that the people are educated to understand that isolation is necessary to prevent spread, and it is not a punitive measure, or it is not a measure of integrity amongst the people who catch COVID. At the same time, the fact that it is a new phenomenon basically requires us, as a general population, the entire population of us, to take measures to try and prevent ourselves from catching COVID. So being careful again should also not be viewed as stigmatization, because everyone is advised to be cautious. Better safe than sorry. So take measures that you
Yes.
can take to try and keep yourself safe, but at the same time, don't do things that are necessarily going to traumatize people who are in the process of the disease or have survived it.
Daktari Martha and Laura, just to check in some of the comments that are coming in on our social media page, and we have ndugu wa Trash Mbwana anasema he's watching. Asante sana ndugu wa Trash, tuko pamoja. Helen anasema there is a controversy regarding bank staff being essential service or not being, because they have to go to work sometimes when they go. Okay, there's a lot of conversation about the vaccine. And I think you're not experts in this, but probably like just to hear your comments on this conversation about vaccine. Nitaanza na dada Laura, probably your take on the vaccine, and are you willing to go to get the jab? Mheshimiwa Martha, your take on the vaccine, have you gone to take the jab? Alafu daktari atakuwa anatufungia in this conversation about vaccine. Daktari, get prepared for that conversation. Yes, Laura, tuanze nawe.
About the vaccine, I think it's good. Now, maybe I'm ready to go for it. I've not taken it yet, but I'm willing to get it. Yeah.
Okay, okay, okay. Asante Laura. Mheshimiwa Martha, probably your sentiments on the vaccine, or probably have you had the jab already?
No, I have not had the jab already because it has to take 90 days for me to be able to have one. But I am already planning for my family to have one. And when my time comes, I will definitely get one. Yes, it is something good to take. People should not start putting myths about it. And I think if it is available, we all need to get it and be safe. Yeah.
Okay. Naam, daktari, a lot of conversation about the vaccine, daktari. And I'm seeing some of the comments, probably just to go through the conversation or the comments that are on social media. Bran is saying there has been a lot of comments on the azithromycin. Of course, you talked about this, and then Alan is saying, who are the people eligible for the vaccine? Young people with lung problems are not among them, being that COVID affects the respiratory system. Shouldn't they be considered? 60 to 70 efficiency, is it efficient enough, especially for those with pre-existing Johnson was asking, there is issue of variants and the vaccine. We have had of the South African variants and Brazilian variants. Can Daktari clarify for us further on this issue? Yes, Daktari.
Okay, I think I don't know how to approach this, but let me start at variants.
Yes.
This is a virus, and viruses have been known to mutate over time, which means that they change their form, and as they change their form, they can become either more severe in the diseases they cause, or even become ineffective. Okay, so the reality of the matter is that mutation is going to happen. We are going to have new variants. Vaccines. The vaccines that have been produced, there's a lot of controversy in society because of how quickly they were produced. But if you look back at SARS and MERS, during the time when we had these two pandemics, a lot of research was done into genomic sequencing, which is basically knowing the genomic makeup of an organism, in this case, these viruses. So when COVID came in, it became very easy to genomically sequence it. And that had already been done by January of this year, of 2020. And that meant that it became very easy to grow this virus in a laboratory. If you're able to grow it in a laboratory, it means that it becomes very easy for you to be able to tell what parts of it are used to infect the human body and what parts of it can be attacked by the immune system of the human being, which makes it then very possible for you to make what's called a vaccine. The vaccines that are being used are not like the traditional ones which we used to use, which are basically either a weakened or a killed organism. Most of them are based on technology called messenger RNA. Messenger RNA basically is just a protein strand from the cell that is able to program your immune system to be able to recognize a specific aspect of an organism and be able to produce a response to its presence. So all these vaccines really do is they tell your cells to look out for this organism that looks like this, and that when you meet this organism, produce this specific response to destroy it. Fortunately, technology has made it possible for this to happen very quickly. Three, you need to note that this is a pandemic and it's of major health, public health interest because it has the potential to kill very large numbers of people. As a result, the emergency process of bringing a vaccine onto the table must be taken into account and must be considered as very essential. Because if you don't do that, the longer you take to bring on this vaccine, you will be getting new variants. At the same time, you will be losing people. It has already been demonstrated that the vaccines we already have, at least 3 of them are effective against the new variants of COVID-19 that we are seeing in our setup. At the same time, the essence of a vaccine is not that it is going to make sure you never ever get sick. That would be a lie. That has never been what vaccines are meant for. Vaccines are meant to reduce the chances that you will get sick. And in the event that you do get sick, they reduce the chances that you are going to get severe disease. In this case, when we say severe disease, we mean reduces the chances that you're going to need to actually get hospital care or suffer significant debilitation after contracting the disease. Now, those are the important things to know about vaccination. Now, I have personally taken the vaccine, the first dose of it, about a week ago, and I'm due for the next one on 27th of May. And I can tell you for free, you're better off with a vaccine that will reduce the risk of you getting sick by 50% than not having one at all. Now, these ones, I can tell you for free, the effectiveness is way above that figure that I spoke about. Most of them are in the 79, 70%. And for the risk of getting severe disease and admission, it is nearly 100% in the areas where the studies have been done. That the guys who got the vaccine did not get severe disease and did not require admissions.
Okay.
Back to you.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Asante sana daktari for that. Now, of course, thank you for that great information. Let me just bring in Laura. At least tumesikia kutoka kwa mheshimiwa Martha that she is doing a lot of advocacy, of course, on matters to do with the COVID-19. Laura, labda on your side, how are you coping up and anything you're doing matters of advocacy on matters COVID-19 kwa watu wa Tana River? Na je, wanachukuliaje watu wa Tana River kuhusiana na haya masuala ya COVID, Laura?
Watu wa Tana River mostly wengi wao hata hawajaamini kama COVID iko, but lately this year I think they have been like wanakuja kuamini kwamba iko, kwa sababu some people, we have lost people like me myself, I've lost a grandpa alifariki kwa sababu of the COVID-19. A very close friend of mine, her dad did not pass on, but he is a survivor of COVID-19. But now so far, people are aware that COVID-19 is there, and they are taking the necessary precautions in Tana River County. Yeah.
Naam. Okay. Na Laura, labda kuna advocacy yote unafanya in person kuwajulisha watu kuhusiana na umuhimu wa kukaa mbali angalau ama kujikinga kutokana na COVID-19?
I have via WhatsApp, but maybe I'll be planning to do that. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So
Yeah.
let me just because now we have Mheshimiwa Martha. Mheshimiwa Martha is representing at least members of the county assembly ama the policy makers. So as we discuss all this, Daktari representing the health practitioners na Laura representing the citizen. Wakati ambapo tuna have this conversation, Mheshimiwa Martha, Laura and Daktari, we will all agree ya kwamba peace is an important aspect katika maswala haya ya COVID-19 or during this pandemic of COVID-19. Kwa maoni yenu, in your own opinion, of course, Mheshimiwa Martha is a member of parliament, a member of the county assembly, Daktari as a health practitioner na Laura as a citizen. What do you think is the best approach kwa kudeal na maswala wakati wa COVID-19 ya kudeal na maswala ya security na amani, kuhakikisha kwamba the two are not in conflict? I think we also what happened during the first days of COVID-19, whatever happened in Likoni, curfew ni saa moja, people have to get nyumbani by that time, watu wakatandikwa pale, ama ukipatikana labda nje wakati ni ambao ni unafaa kuwa wa curfew. How do we deal with all this, Mheshimiwa Martha, US policy makers, kuhakikisha
I
kwamba
think
there's no conflict between the security and the citizens?
personally, I think what we need to do is taking responsibility ourselves. Unaona hizi measures that the government is putting in place, the measures that the president is putting in place, it is because of our carelessness. It is because of us not following what is being told to us. If we wore our masks the right way, if we sanitized our hands, if we try, I know we are Kenyans, I know our economy is taken to the grave. I understand all that. But trust me, if we followed the protocols, if we followed everything, hizi measures zote zenye ziko hazingelikuwa, hatungeliambiwa tuko na curfew like right now. I personally am a business person. I am affected with the lockdown now because I have a shop in Nairobi. You see, if it is any measures put in place by the government, by the MOH, we are big contributors to that. Can we take responsibility and being good citizens? If we are told to wear a mask, can we put those masks? If we are told to sit 8 of us or 7 of us in a matatu, let us be each other's keeper and tell the conductor, no, you cannot add 2 or 3 more other people because we are supposed to sit 8. It is hard. Whatever I am talking, I know some people will take them as a dream or anything, but if we want to fight COVID for sure, we have to take the measures put in place seriously so that the government can now also loosen up. Hii mambo ya watu kuwa wanavuka feri wanapigwa because saa mbili imefika, it is not right. I condemn that and it is very wrong, but what are we doing as a person, as a people, as a nation, as citizens? Are we taking the measures put in place seriously? Because if the graph was low, then President hangelieka curfew na kufunga some parts lockdown. I was in Nairobi. The day I was discharged, we went to buy food with my husband, and it was in a club. And we saw people seated, taking alcohol, enjoying, no mask, no social distance, no nothing. We are going to Airbnbs to do parties, and we expect the economy to be unlocked. We are dreaming. And if we don't take
Okay.
measures, then we are going to suffer more.
Okay. Let me just bring in Laura. Tana River wanasemaje haswa kuhusiana na hizi measures ambazo president ameweka, na haswa kuhakikisha kwamba hakuna mvutano kati ya maafisa wa polisi na raia. Curfew imesemekana ni saa 4, si saa 5, tunataka kuwa nje bado. Laura, labda taswira ikoje Tana River County?
In Tana River County mimi naona hakuna kesi zozote za askari na raia kusumbuana kuhusiana na mikakati ambayo yamewekwa na kuhusiana na COVID-19. People there they are just doing what they are told to do, na watu kule huwa si wengi, so it's very easy to manage them. So kama wakati wa curfew utapata mtu hata mmoja nje. They are just doing exactly what is supposed to be done, kwa sababu kusikue shida baina ya askari na raia. People are just following the measures that are put in place kudeal na spread ya COVID-19. But mambo na wearing mask kidogo hapo tunazembea sana.
Watu wanazembea sana hapo kwa kuvaa mask.
Watu wanazembea sana hapo kwa kuvaa mask.
Wow, okay. Daktari, umesikia maneno hayo, kuvaa mask kuna shida, whatever the president the measures that were put in place ya kwamba for the residents of Nairobi and the other 4 counties watabaki pale pale, and of course for the rest of the counties pia we saw all these measures that have been put in place by the government, Daktari. And guys are like, okay, we need to put all these measures, but we also seeing whatever is happening on the economy and all this. Daktari, this whole issue, I mean, how do we deal with it, Daktari?
This is an age-old measure that has been used in disease prevention ever since the days of the plague. Okay. It is normal for you sometimes to need to separate people from each other for a period of time to reduce the spread of especially a contagion like COVID-19. I think it is necessary that some of these measures are put in place. However, at policy level, Koki and crew, there are things that need to be looked at very carefully. Like, for example, the employer requires his employees to be at work up to and until a certain period of time of the day. In Nairobi, everyone knows Nairobi. Right now, traffic is flowing. A few minutes later, you will be seated there for the next 4 hours. So I think we need also to come up with certain policy measures to make sure people are able to leave work on time, and that the employer is compelled to actually leave non-essential staff to go away. He's actually compelled. It is not optional, because when it is optional, then they leave you to the dogs. And you're seeing security forces have orders, and orders are very simple. At this point in time, there should be no movement, and it has been declared as a curfew. It is not just a crackdown, it is a curfew. Everyone knows that curfew borders on state of emergency, and the enforcement of it is rather draconian. That is normal wherever a curfew has ever been imposed. However, also the security forces need to exercise discretion in certain situations. I mean, if you're able to see, for example, that traffic has not moved on a road for the last 4 hours, it's obvious that the people on that road then will not be at home on time. So also discretion must come into play, but the measures are necessary. For example, if you opt not to wear a mask, I don't see why you shouldn't be arrested. Choices have consequences.
Okay.
Back to you.
Okay. Mheshimiwa Martha, Laura, and Daktari, and I think Daktari will come in mwisho hapo, on the issue of equality and access to treatment, especially on COVID-19. Mheshimiwa Martha, I'm sure you paid quite some amount of bill wakati ambapo ulikuwa umelazwa, but how many Kenyans can afford that, Mheshimiwa Martha? You know, that is the issue of concern on the equality and access of treatment ya COVID-19, Mheshimiwa Martha. Haswa wananchi wako wa Kilifi, je, wengi wanaweza kulipa hii gharama ya matibabu ya COVID?
To be honest, the COVID-19 treatment is extremely expensive, and I would urge the government to think about the common mwananchi. If you listened, if you watched my live, I said if this is what it is, then it means if you don't have money, you will die. I will say for sure, my bill was 780, and somehow we managed, and my insurance paid for it. But if it were not for my insurance, then it means my family, my husband, would have coughed 780. How many common mwananchi would afford 780 if they can't even afford to buy a packet of unga? So I think our medical, our health as a country and has really failed us. And I think uh, coming down to counties, I think I will do a motion on the same after experiencing what what I've experienced, and at a national level, I think our members of parliament, our senators, and all that, they need to think about the common mwananchi more so when it comes to pandemics like COVID-19. To be honest, the treatment is not cheap, and what I'm trying to tell people, look, if you can avoid this, kindly avoid it so that you can also save that bill, because it is really high. Yeah, at the moment it is really high, and we are looking forward to a time where people will go into hospitals and get treatment freely or fairly, where everybody can be able to afford. Here where I was admitted, if you came in as a patient and you need an ICU bed, you have to give a deposit of 1 million. Can you imagine? So this
Wow.
treatment is extremely
Mm.
expensive. Yes.
Okay. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Martha for that very very expensive. Daktari, you've heard that. Laura, labda kwa upande wako, na haswa wengi wetu ni walala hoi Laura. Sasa ikiwa Mheshimiwa Martha anasema kwamba the deposit peke yake ni 1 million or 708,000, how many people can be able to afford this? Laura, labda kwa upande wako, na haswa hii treatment ya COVID-19, na ikiwa haswa pale Tana River ambapo maisha ni ya kupata leo, na haswa hivi sasa ambapo kumekuja na corona, pia kuna changamoto nyingi. Tuizungumziaje kuhusiana na hii treatment ya COVID-19?
Well, treatment of COVID-19. To be just honest, I personally I was just lucky kwa sababu sikufika hiyo stage ya kuwa my organs were failing. Nilipona haraka, but there is a close relative of mine mwenye amepona, but he was aged na yeye alilazwa Aga Khan hospital na bili yake ilikuja 9 million, so we had tulilazimika kuchanga kanisa, relatives and everywhere. Watu ilibidi wachange wafikishe 9 million ndo atoke hospitali, but tulichanga, but watu wali come in, pesa ikapatikana akatoka. But ukifikiria mtu mwingine ambaye hata ku raise hiyo pesa, kitu chenye anaweza fanya ni kuchukua tu the necessary measures asipate na hiyo COVID-19, especially somebody who is aging. Yeah.
Okay. Naam. Naam Laura, asante. Daktari, 9 million kule, 780 deposit ya 1 million, very expensive treatment, na tunajua hali zetu za maisha doc.
I need to put this in perspective. Healthcare is costly.
Yes.
Healthcare is not cheap. And over the years, we have allowed our healthcare systems to slacken a little. We have not done very much to try and bring them up to par, to be the same as the private sector. So in the private sector, you find the quality of care is a lot higher than what you'll get in the public healthcare sector. But not all is lost. If you look at the COVID pandemic, it has taught us a few things, and some counties have learned and they have done quite well. Like if you look at Mombasa, Laura will tell you that her experience in Coast General was not as horrible as what people used to call Coast General in the past, because a lot has been done to improve the facility to a standard that is acceptable both locally and internationally. We might not be where we need to be yet, but we are getting somewhere. Of course, there are also the disparities of distribution of resources, which yet again are at policy level. I don't want to say very much about that, because for as long as we have that disparity in distribution of resources, we will always have a problem in the health sector. Prioritization of resources also is very important, because when you receive the resources, if you don't put them in the correct place, then you find that you're not prepared for situations like this. So if you received resources for healthcare and you diverted them for a road, for example, it means that when the pandemic came, you didn't have the resources to beef up your situation. In terms of risk stratification, you will notice that a lot of the risk populations are located in the urban areas, and that is why you're seeing a lot more is happening in Mombasa, a lot more is happening in Nairobi, a lot more is happening in places like Kitui, because most of the cases we have seen seem to be in those particular locations. And if the local authorities of those areas, if you look carefully, you'll see they have done a lot to try and beef up their capacity in the public health sector to be able to deal with COVID, to the point where the treatment you will get in Mombasa in ICU is the same as you will get in Aga Khan as at Coast General Hospital. So a lot has been done, but we still have a lot that needs to be done to be able to make the whole country even to be able to deal with such situations. But at the same time, we also need to stop being careless. As we said, this is a communicable disease. Communicable diseases are preventable by putting measures that you and me can easily, at very little or no cost, implement. If we do not put those measures in place for ourselves, then we expose ourselves to the risks of needing to pay 900,000 or 9 million. Because the moment you get into an ICU in a private hospital today and stay there for 3 months, you're in trouble, in a lot of trouble. I also want to respond on one thing about the vaccination schedule and the stratification of the people who are receiving it. Someone asked about young people with respiratory diseases. It's just a matter of time you're going to be reached, but it would make no sense to get this vaccine and vaccinate the entire population with what you had and not be able to vaccinate them the second time, because then you lose the benefit of the vaccination. So what is being done here is simple: stratify the population according to the risk of them getting severe illness, which is the very old above the age of 58, people who have comorbidities, diabetes, cancer, HIV, name it, who are at higher risk of getting severe disease, healthcare workers who are in contact with the disease every day of their life, the police, teachers, the clergy, people who are likely at a higher risk than everyone else to get into contact. Vaccinate them first. Once you have vaccinated them, you reduce the risk of them passing it to you. Because again, one doctor, for example, in a day in any hospital in Kenya will meet probably 40 patients. Out of those 40 patients, probably one or two maybe will have COVID. If the doctor has COVID, then he has the capability of giving it to 40 people, who will then go home and give it to 10 people in each of their individual households. So that is the whole basis of the risk stratification and how the vaccine is then being given. But you notice that with time, as we are able to produce more quantities of the vaccine, because you also need to take into account the fact that this is something new, the capacity to generate enough vaccine is not there. And that capacity needs to be built over time to be able to serve the entire population. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Daktari, for that. Ellie, let's just see if we have questions that need to be answered. So, Ellie, tafadhali on the question and answer question. Yes. Okay. Ellie, so kindly tafadhali, the questions that need to be answered so that we can either drop them to Daktari, Mheshimiwa Martha or Laura. Yes, Ellie, the questions. The vaccine, Alan, the question has been answered by Daktari on the young people and those who are eligible to get the vaccine. So that one has been answered, Ndugu Alan. So Eli, kindly, Brian Ouma says we have class issue in the administration of the vaccine, which is so unfortunate. Exactly what we were discussing. So, Daktari, I think you can just chip in on this, on the issue of, and this is again on the issue of treatment and the equality on the issue of treatment and also the vaccine, Daktari, that kina Mheshimiwa Martha, or they have a specific vaccine, kina Laura and kina Solomon have a specific vaccine that they will go for, Daktari.
Okay, I think we need to be a bit realistic on some of these things. The reality of the matter is that we have several different companies producing the vaccine. And this vaccination is meant to span an entire population of the world, not just of Kenya only, which means what will be sold by one company to one or delivered to one country by a company will be a very limited quantity. And as such, you must find a way to distribute it across your population. And I don't think class has been of any issue here. If you go, like in my rural home, my parents got vaccinated last week on Thursday. They simply walked into Bondo District Hospital and got their vaccine and went back home. In fact, they were there for less than 10 minutes, because the same people who say that the vaccine is not available to them are afraid of taking it. So there are even no queues. Yeah. In Nairobi, where people are a little bit more enlightened, you find that there's a bit of pressure for this vaccination. So it becomes a very difficult thing to deal with, because there is a larger population looking for it. The quantity is limited per facility. So you'll find most facilities require you to book an appointment, because they also must ensure that on their prospective receipt of vaccines, they will be able to give you a second dose. Without the second dose, we are wasting time. So
Okay.
I think
I
that is
think
the gist.
Yes, Doctor. I think what he meant is that the class of kina Mheshimiwa Martha are going for a specific vaccine, the Russian one, and then the rest of the people are going for the Oxford one. So I think that is the issue there. That is why he's probably speaking about the class of the vaccine.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, let me
Yes.
just put it like this. Those are issues of personal choice. What is available in this country through the government of Kenya, through the Ministry of Health, has been Covishield. Okay, which is available in all our health facilities, including private and public, and it is being given at no cost to the high-risk populations that were stratified. As for Sputnik 5, it is a commercial vaccine that was imported for sale by an individual. I do not want to comment very much about that because of our legal issues surrounding it. If you choose to go for a commercial vaccine, that is a matter of choice. For as long as you fall within the strata that the government has set aside, go to the facilities that they have basically accredited, and you will get your vaccine at no cost. It is not about class. It is about what the government has in its stock versus what other people have imported at their own expense.
Yes.
Otherwise, in terms of efficacy, and usefulness of the vaccines, it is the same. Any vaccine is better than no vaccine. That is the message to take home.
Yes, and that is the take home, I think, today. Any vaccine is better than any vaccine. Okay. So Mheshimiwa Martha, labda than no vaccine at all. Asante.
Yes.
Mheshimiwa Martha, probably just to chip in on this. Asante for that, Daktari. That is the take home today. Mheshimiwa Martha, do you believe on this conversation that we have a class issue on the vaccine?
I am not sure about that, because I know my county has been given the vaccination. When now we are specified we can go for the vaccine, I will go to Kilifi hospital and I'll have my vaccination. I will not go anywhere. So whatever will be brought for Kilifi County is what I will take.
Okay. So let me just give this opportunity, Laura, on your closing remarks. Wakati ambapo tunamalizia on issues related to COVID-19, Laura, and what should people know, and especially those in Tana River County and Kenya kwa ujumla? Yes,
Repeat.
Nasema closing remarks na watu wanafaa kujua nini kuhusiana na COVID na going forward, manake gonjwa hili litakuwa nasi kwa muda mrefu. Laura, yes.
Chenye naweza kusema ni kwamba COVID-19 is there, and kuna watu wenye sisi wenyewe tumeona kwamba hii ugonjwa iko. What we are supposed to do, we have to be responsible, because stay at home is not easy. Yani kufanya kazi inaweza kuwa hectic kweli, but sitting back at home doing nothing is not easy. It's not easy. As in your quarantine, it's not something that anybody will wish to experience. So what people should do is just take the necessary precautions, do what they're told to do, just for the sake of themselves. And here we have to protect our people. We have to protect our children and our parents, especially our parents. Mtu mwenye unajua huyu mzazi wangu akipata corona sahihi nitatoa wapi milioni 9 za kumtibu, na akianza organ kufail itakuwaje? We have to think about people who we love, people close to us, and we can only protect them by taking the necessary precautions. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Mheshimiwa Martha, as we close, but before that, just to thank each and every one of you for creating time and following this conversation, and of course, just to mention that this one has been made possible by our sponsors, who is Search for Common Ground. Thank you so much, Search for Common Ground, for making this possible. We appreciate so much Search for Common Ground for making this possible, and of course, the European Union, asante sana pia for making this possible, and of course, Giletix Media for also making this possible. Shukran sana. Just before we close, wanted to hear something from Mheshimiwa Martha. Yes,
Okay.
tunapomalizia malizia Mheshimiwa Martha, your closing remarks.
Sawa.
Yes.
First, I want to thank you people for inviting me. I am still on my recovery. I am still not well. I have not started going to work. And what I want to say as my parting shot is people need to know that COVID is there and COVID is real. Whoever has not believed until today, just due to tampeleka wapi. COVID is real and COVID is there. Another thing is I want people to think out of the box. The economy has been affected. We, the business people, and see and feel this. Those who are employed, watu wamefutwa makazi. People need to think out of the box, not to stay in their house, lament, washikwe na pressure, washikwe na stress, alafu mpaka wakufe. Just think out of the box and see what you can do. Personally, I've already started thinking, look, there are no weddings. I do events. There are no weddings. What can I do? I've started searching and see what I will do within this period until everything goes back to normalcy. Another thing is I want to tell people to take the precautions and all the protocols put in place, because the more we break them, the more the serious measures are put in place, the more we suffer more. You see, if you are okay, whatever you are doing brings money, whether you are doing business or you have whatever it is, just think about that person whose hotel has been shut down and that person had employed 40 or 50 people. Can you imagine how many families are suffering right now? So let us not be selfish. Let us think about, if I am okay, what about this other person? So let us behave like we want this thing to go, and if we want this thing to go, me and you has to take all the precautions put in place. And another thing, I want people to support the sick. I want people to stop stigmatization, because I have had a lot of cases in my inbox where people have been are being stigmatized. Do not stigmatize. You people, you don't know, we are the safest people to be close to, because you see,
Mm-hmm.
you've known my status. You don't know your
Mm-hmm.
friend, you don't know your sister, you don't know your brother's status. We are the safest people to be close to. So don't stigmatize us, because you know our status. I will wear my mask. In fact, me, I put 2 of them, and you'll be on your mask. You will know how to handle me, because you know I've been a victim. But look, you're having
Mm-hmm.
a group of friends and you don't know their status. Who is safer there? It is safer to be with me than
Mm-hmm.
people that you don't know their status. I would also ask people to, those who have been affected, to come out, the survivors to come out. Let us be champions. Let us talk about this disease, and we will remove the stigma. You see, we are also contributing to the stigma because we don't want to talk about it. So if we come out and talk about this disease, and people will say, aya, kumbe hata huyu alishikwa na akapona, and she can talk about it freely. So let us come
Mm-hmm.
out, so many of us. I can't imagine, by me talking about my experience, I have helped over 30, 40 families. Yes. And all those who have gone to do a test after seeing my live, they all turned positive. All of them. They all turned positive. What if they didn't see
Wow.
my story? What if they didn't see my
Yes.
story? So
Mhm.
let us come out
Okay.
and talk about this. We should not fear. Yes.
Thank you so much, Mheshimiwa Martha. So, Daktari, you have the last take as we finish up.
Let me say this. COVID-19 is here. COVID-19 will be with us for a long time. It's not likely to go away soon. COVID-19 does not put a mark on the people that contract it. So it's your personal responsibility to be careful and do all that you can not to contract it. In the event that you suspect that you could have COVID-19, seek treatment early. The sooner you get treatment, the lower the chances that you will get very sick, because you will be able to get care in good enough time. Two, support the people who get COVID-19 the best that you can. And three, economically, survive. Find a way to survive in this hard situation that we are in, because this situation was not generated by us. We found ourselves in it, but we have to survive through it. But stay away from a life of crime. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Alexander Diambo. Asante sana, clinical officer. Thank you so much, Daktari, for making time. Asante sana, Mheshimiwa Martha Koki, CEO wa Ready Fashions, and of course nominated MCA County 003. Asante pia our sister Laura from Tana River County. Thank you so much. Kumbuka, this has been made possible by Search for Common Ground in conjunction with the European Union and Glitix Media. Asante sana pia. Remember, you can follow the conversation. The hashtag is pamoja dhidi ya corona or hashtag baki salama. Asanteni sana for creating time. Shukran na tuendelee kubaki salama na tuko pamoja dhidi ya COVID-19. Asanteni sana. Thank you so much. Thank you.